Surprise, surprise, surprise. I have Mexican ancestry. Um, my third great grandmother, Cecilia, she came from Mexico. Now, I don't know if she was like from the United States, before it was called Mexico in some territories, or she came from today territory that's now labeled as Mexico. I'm not sure. I have not really gotten that far on her yet, but I did find a document saying that, she came from Mexico, her parents came from Mexico. But I think on that same document, her daughter said she came from Alabama. And I was like, that's weird. So I was doing like a little research and I came across Wikipedia because I really cannot find as much information I wanted to. But when I read this, it made sense to me because they labeled her white. But that does not necessarily mean that she was white, so to speak. I'm going to read y'all what Wikipedia says, and I'm gonna tell y'all exactly how the fuck I feel about it. So hold on one second. In the past, Mexicans were legally considered white because either they were accepted as being of Spanish ancestry or because of early treaty obligations to Spaniards and Mexicans that conferred citizenship status to Mexican peoples before the American Civil War. Numerous slave states bordered Mexican territory at a time when whiteness was nearly a prerequisite for U.S. citizenship in those states. Now, I feel like that's what happened with my third great grandmother. Like, she came from Mexico, and in order for her to get U.S. citizenship, she had to be labeled as white. But, I mean, they did this to begin with. But, yeah, I feel like when I read that, it spoke to me. Okay, next slide. From 1790 to 1850, there was no distinct racial classification of Mexican Americans in the U.S. Census. The categories recognized by the Census Bureau were white, free people of color, and black. The Census Bureau estimates that during this period, the number of persons who could not be categorized as white or black did not exceed 0.25% of the total population based on 1860 census data. So when I tell you that our ancestors was going through paper genocide, I fucking mean that shit, bro. Like, I mean that shit. Like, that is paper genocide as a motherfucker. Like, they did this to everybody. It wasn't just origines. It was people from different territories, within the American continent. Okay, and read this now. From 1850 through 1920, the Census Bureau expanded its racial categories to include multiracial persons under mestizos, mulattoes, as well as new categories of distinction of Amerindians and Asians. It classified Mexicans and Mexican Americans as white. So yeah, man, I mean, it's fucked up, and I'm actually happy that I was able to find this little piece of ancestry about myself because I always felt like, my family did, so to speak, come from Mexico. Actually, just on my mom's side, period. Like, I always felt like they always did come from Mexico. I used to ride hard for Mexicans, but as I got older, I started to see like the colorism and the prejudiceness, some of them have, and I was starting like to really reject it because I was like, yo, like, that's not cool that y'all chasing indigenous people out of LA. It's not cool that y'all have this colorism issue. And it just made me just want to like separate myself from this whole thing. But I had to realize mestizo Mexicans are not the standard in order to be Mexican. So now I am proud of my Mexican ancestry.